Chapter 1371, Demise of Purple, 1/2. Letting me become the leader of Shadow Sect? Feng Yuan was deeply shocked. Unbelievable. He had never imagined the situation would develop like this. I am enemies with Shadow Sect. I even took their sovereign immortal fetus goo. Why is Purple Mountain True Monarch doing this? What scheme does he have? Countless thoughts were moving and colliding in Feng Yuan's mind. Purple Mountain True Monarch. What is the meaning of this? Feng Yuan was silent before asking. Purple Mountain True Monarch explained. Feng Yuan, no need to worry that this is a scheme. There is no such thing. Because I am about to die. Spectral Soul was captured. Duke Long is here personally. He will not let me off. The great era is coming. Feng Yuan. Heavenly Court wants to be the leader of the 5 regions and rule all of humanity. Heavenly Court will not let you off, because you are not Zhao Yinyun. You are a complete otherworldly demon. You have the sovereign immortal aperture as well as the luck path true inheritance. You do not belong to this world. You are a defier of fate, a source of chaos, the biggest uncertainty in heaven and earth. You are the target of Heavenly Court's extermination. If you do not get rid of Heavenly Court, they will eradicate you. My Shadow Sect had once wanted to defy the way of heaven and become a venerable again. But Heavenly Court was our greatest obstacle. Even though we lost, I would rather pass you everything than give them to our enemies. Ha ha. Purple Mountain True Monarch said this and laughed. Feng Yuan pondered. Even in death, not letting enemies have an easy time? This makes sense. However, I need to probe something. Thinking of this, he asked Purple Mountain True Monarch. You have once said that the sovereign immortal body possessed a huge flaw. What is it? Purple Mountain True Monarch chuckled. Haven't you noticed this flaw? It is not hard to guess. The answer is food. Your sovereign immortal body was not created by human reproduction. Even though it has flesh and blood, the origin is different. The essence of a rank 9 immortal goo remains. Since it is like a rank 9 immortal goo, it definitely needs to be fed. Feng Yuan's eyes shined brightly. I had guessed this long ago. What I want to ask is, what exactly does sovereign immortal fetus goo eat? Purple Mountain True Monarch laughed loudly. Didn't you guess it? You are merely testing my sincerity. I will tell you. Purple Mountain True Monarch said his answer. Feng Yuan sucked in a deep breath after hearing it. Like what he had expected, sovereign immortal fetus goo's food was what he had guessed earlier. In that case, I have a huge problem. But Purple Mountain True Monarch actually told me directly. He indeed seems sincere. Inside Shadow Sect's blessed land, countless soul beasts formed into an army and charged at Duke Long like a shocking tide. Duke Long was encircled by the soul beast army. His body was smaller than any of the soul beasts, but he had terrifying battle strength. Even though the soul beasts were numerous, regardless of their cultivation level, they all fell to Duke Long. Duke Long waved his dragon claws. Swish. With a soft sound, a claw mark could be seen. It almost pierced space. Along the way, soul beasts were torn apart, without putting up any resistance. Among these dead soul beasts, there were desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts, but under Duke Long's claws, they were like tofu, soft and mercilessly slaughtered. A bunch of trash. No matter how many you send, it is useless. Duke Long floated in the sky. His body was tall and straight, resembling the peak of a mountain. His dragon horns were sharp and ruthless. His dragon eyes were shining with a cold light. With him at the center, in the radius of 1,000 steps, there was no living beings. A vast number of soul beast corpses were piled up. Purple Mountain True Monarch had already hidden in the soul beast army. His whereabouts were unknown. Duke Long was besieged by the soul beast army for so long, yet he was unharmed. He was expressionlessly looking at a certain location on the ground. Over there, the door of life and death was opened. Countless soul beasts were coming out from inside like a geyser. Soul beasts had the natural survival instinct to avoid danger, but after such a long time of being inside, the door of life and death was Spectral Soul's domain. The soul beasts inside the door of life and death were controlled by Spectral Soul to an extent. They were incredibly loyal to Shadow Sect and would not care about sacrifices. They listened to Purple Mountain True Monarch's orders and attacked Duke Long. Even though it was hopeless, door of life and death, Duke Long pondered. This was a secluded domain of heaven and earth, unique in this world that it was also one of Duke Long's targets in this journey. After taking the door of life and death, when fate immortal Gu recovers completely, any life form's soul upon death, without exception, would need to enter the door of life and death. By then, with this secluded domain of heaven and earth, Heavenly Court's rule will be absolute. From Duke Long's perspective, once he used a strong move like triple chi retraction, Shadow Sect's blessed land would be incredibly fragile. But now, in order to not destroy the door of life and death, Duke Long decided to use another method. Boom! Duke Long flew out rapidly. He moved like a flying dragon, rampaging without fear. All the soul beasts around him were sent flying, before countless air currents sliced them into pieces. Just a tiny split soul. Where do you think you're hiding? Duke Long spoke as he slammed with his hand. Rumble, a huge translucent mountain created from air currents descended and pressed down immediately. Purple Mountain True Monarch gritted his teeth. He had to show up and resist it. Both sides fought as the air current mountain was expended by half. Purple Mountain True Monarch coughed out blood. He was tossed away like a kite with its strings cut. What are you resisting for? Do you still have hope? Duke Long snorted coldly. He attacked again mercilessly with an imposing aura. Hope? Huh? Purple Mountain True Monarch knew that he could not survive this battle. This was his final moment in life. His gaze couldn't help but become slightly hazy. More than 100,000 years ago, 7 people emerged from the door of life and death. Huff. We finally got out of the door of life and death. We revived. There are only 7 of us now. Thankfully, Reverse Flow River is not around. Otherwise, how could we have left? Now that Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable is dead, let's go. We carry the hope of our main body to return to rank 9. That year, Shadow Sect was established. The first-generation split souls were known as red, orange, yellow, green, azure, blue, and purple. That means, I am purple. Purple Mountain True Monarch looked at the water. Seeing his reflection, he looked far away. Let's start cultivating. We need strength. Many years later, rumble, a huge explosion occurred as the Gu formation shattered. Smoke started to appear. We got through. As expected of Purple, you are really amazing. We actually managed to destroy the Gu formation that Limitless Demon Venerable created. Yellow laughed loudly. Yellow patted Purple's shoulder, asking, Purple, among us, you cultivate wisdom path. What is your wisdom path attainment level now? Great Grandmaster. Purple answered plainly. Yellow's mouth was open mouth. Heavens, you are the first great Grandmaster among us. Purple looked at Yellow. What is there to be surprised about? Don't forget, we are the main body's split souls. We carry a portion of his cultivation experiences. Yellow nodded. That's right. The best thing to be happy about is this limitless true inheritance. We got past Limitless Demon Venerable's final test. This true inheritance is ours. That's right. This way, our hope of executing our major plan has increased. Purple smiled lightly. If it develops like this, we will continue to gain more true inheritances and resources. We will grow stronger and pave the way for our main body. Many years passed again. Heaven's will. To think that it has such great power. Even Azure suffered a loss. What do we do now? The higher our cultivation level, the stronger Shadow Sect's forces become, and the more Heavens will target us. At this rate, we will have huge problems. It is not hard to settle Azure's matter. I have a way, that is to refine Wisdom's Sword Immortal Gu. As for Heaven's will, I will think of a way. Purple said this as he squinted. Even though Azure is no longer bounded by love, his second venerable ascension attempt failed completely. What else can we do? How can we resist Heaven's will? Purple started to enter deep seclusion, trying his best to find a way. Finally, he found a method. Assimilate with Heaven's will? Let myself become part of Heaven's will temporarily. Even though it is dangerous, the idea is good. We will enter the enemy's base and learn about a portion of Heaven's will's plans. But there is something to note. If the assimilation is long-term, Heaven's will might take me over, and I will truly become part of Heaven's will entirely. I need to find a way to maintain my own consciousness. After a long and difficult deduction, I finally deduced it. I will name this method Purple Gold Rock. against heaven's will. Even though hope is small, there is still a trace of it. Cough, cough, cough. He suddenly covered his mouth, coughing violently for some time. As blood flowed out from the gaps between his fingers, time continued to pass. At some point in time, the purple gold rock broke as Purple woke up. Where is this? How long has it been? Looking at the unknown environment, Purple was dazed. Most of the first-generation split souls have died. Only a few are left. They are like me, barely alive. Sigh. Thankfully, Shadow Sect is developing well. Purple let out a deep sigh as he looked at the sky. Heaven's will. He had a solemn gaze. Grandpa, drink some water. One day, Purple woke up and found a pair of master and servant beside him, but a young girl wearing elegant clothes along with a muscular female servant. Third young miss, don't bother with this old beggar. Oh, you are too kind-hearted. This old beggar is not a member of our village. Why are you involved with him? The female servant looked at Purple, her goo master aura unconcealed. Purple looked at himself, smiling bitterly. Chapter 1372, Demise of Purple, 2 halves. Purple Mountain True Monarch realized that his clothes were extremely tattered. He had a wrinkled face covered in dust and mud. He was scrawny and dirty, but soon he looked at the female goo master in front of him, thinking, it's her? The crucial person in fate? No, this feeling is not her. It is her descendant. The female goo master left behind some food before leaving with the servant. That night, Purple went to her and left a true inheritance in her dream. This true inheritance is a little messy. It has wisdom path, transformation path, and also food path. I'll call it Black Tigress True Inheritance. Oh, I wonder if it will be effective. Can I influence anything? But there is still hope at least, right? Purple left silently. Northern Plains, in a cave. She's here. Purple Mountain True Monarch thought to himself that a young lady one show charged into this place. Upon seeing Purple Mountain True Monarch, her heart sank to rock bottom. So, Senior, you were already here. This Junior will leave. I don't dare disturb Senior from taking this true inheritance. Purple Mountain True Monarch's aura made Lady One Show's heart palpitate. Purple Mountain True Monarch looked at her, thinking, this is the girl. He said, little girl, you could become a goo immortal at such a young age, and also know your own limits. Knowing when to retreat or advance, quite good. I don't have the qualifications to take this true inheritance. I am willing to give this true inheritance to you. But, after you inherit it, you need to tell me of its contents. You will also owe me a favor. If there is a situation in the future, you must help the person who uses this information path goo worm. You can kill me however you want. But I will never beg for mercy. The female goo master lying on the ground said stubbornly. Purple laughed. Little girl, you are quite interesting. You remind me of the past. Meeting me is your great fortune. Saying this, Purple stretched out his index finger, pointing on the female goo master's forehead. This is a fire path true inheritance. I am giving you the first half. When you reach rank 5 and become a goo master expert, you can find the second half somewhere in Northern Plains. If you manage to obtain it, you might be able to become an immortal. Saying this, Purple vanished. Immortal ascension? This old beggar is crazy. Is he a goo immortal? The female goo master recovered after a long time. She left this place filled with shock and suspicion. Purple stood on the cloud. Looking at the departing female goo master, he muttered, this girl is quite special. Not only is there the smell of fate, she is also receiving Heaven's will's attention. I'm afraid that one of her close relatives becomes a pawn of Heaven's will in the future. Young man, I have 3 true inheritances here. The first can allow you to bathe in flames and step on fire, surpassing the mortal realm. The second can allow you to control wind and fly in the air, roaming the world freely. The third can allow you to surpass life and death, gaining the ability to assist the world's people. Which one will you choose? Think about it and tell me. The young Tai by Yunsheng thought for a while and said, the third one, another source of hope. Sigh, it has been almost 100,000 years. I hope that the seeds of hope that I spread will accumulate sufficiently to help our main body's plan. Roar. A dragon roar resounded in the entire blessed land. Duke Long spat out dragon flames and directly hit Purple Mountain True Monarch. Purple Mountain True Monarch sacrificed his own arm to block his attack before retreating. Duke Long grabbed. Purple Mountain True Monarch felt intense pain in his heart. After some struggling, half of his skeleton was smashed to bits by Duke Long. Purple Mountain True Monarch endured the pain. Even though he could not move, he still tried to use goo worms to dodge. Duke Long's expression was still cold. "Want to know why you lost?" He looked at Purple Mountain True Monarch like a cat looking at a mouse. Purple Mountain True Monarch coughed as he spat out some blood, looking at Duke Long. "I am listening." Duke Long smiled coldly, vanishing on the spot before appearing in front of Purple Mountain True Monarch. A tough fist. Purple Mountain True Monarch's stomach was hit by the fist. The unparalleled force directly broke through his abdomen and created a huge hole. Purple Mountain True Monarch was like a cannonball, crashing into the ground and creating a deep pit. You tried to partially assimilate with Heaven's will. The truth is, Lady Star Constellation Immortal Venerable had done that eons ago. She is the creator of Wisdom Path. How could you possibly play tricks before her very eyes? The latter half of your life was spent doing one thing. That was to fight for pawns against Heaven's will. But unfortunately, you were assimilated with Heaven's will. You are one of Heaven's will's pawns too. Duke Long said this as he descended. Purple Mountain True Monarch gritted his teeth, exerting his strength to fly out of the pit. He flew backwards and landed on the ground, coughing out blood again. His stomach was held together by 2 pieces of skin, but he no longer bled. He had used healing methods already. Purple Mountain True Monarch had a pale expression. His body was wavering. All he saw was darkness. Using only his will to maintain his consciousness, he tried not to faint. Duke Long gradually landed on the ground. He did not pursue him, stretching out his index finger to point at Purple Mountain True Monarch. Boom! A grand beam of light shot out intensely. Purple Mountain True Monarch's entire body was flickering with purple light, but under Duke Long's unstoppable attacks, he was thrown into the sky, before crashing onto the ground, his body covered by a pool of blood. As for the second reason you failed, I am sure you have guessed it. That's right. This dream realm has been taken over by Heaven's will. The longer the dream realm manifests, the deeper the infiltration of Heaven's will in this place. This time, my heavenly court was blessed to have gained the guidance of star constellation Heaven's will. We have already understood the condition and location of Spectral Soul's main body. Oh, and that Feng Yuan. It is quite ironic. If he hid somewhere else, we would not have been able to find him. But because he was here to explore the dream realm, he was completely exposed to Heaven's will. He attempted to defy the will of Heaven. He deserves death. He will die today, without doubt. Duke Long stepped forward, during which countless soul beasts gathered. It was a completely dark area filled with endlessly killing intent against Duke Long. Duke Long continued moving forward. Without looking above himself, he raised his left arm and grasped lightly. Rumble. There was a huge explosion. During that period, countless soul beasts broke apart, smashed into smithereens. Duke Long had quasi-rank 9 battle strength indeed, primarily cultivating Chi Path and Transformation Path. Secondarily, he was now using his Chi Path methods. In front of him, the Soul Beast army was like a fragile toy army that he moved forward. His body was tough and his hair was fluttering. Getting to Purple Mountain True Monarch, Duke Long stood and observed Purple Mountain True Monarch by his feet. Purple Mountain True Monarch lay on the ground. His arms were trembling. He was trying to sit up. He wanted to stand, but he wanted to continue fighting. Thus, Duke Long looked at him quietly, seeing him exert all his strength to stand up against him. But Purple Mountain True Monarch was too heavily injured. He had no way of fighting back. Even the action of standing was too tough for him. But just when he was about to fall, Duke Long attacked and grabbed Purple Mountain True Monarch's neck. Duke Long used his pincer-like hand to grab Purple Mountain True Monarch, holding him up towards the sky. How does it feel to have your hopes dashed? Attempting to defy fate will result in such a pitiful ending. Even a venerable soul is no different. Duke Long said coldly. Purple Mountain True Monarch grabbed Duke Long's arms weakly. Cough, cough, cough. I indeed have no hope. But that does not mean that others have no hope. Duke Long's expression changed. His sharp dragon eyes gazed at Purple Mountain True Monarch's body. No wonder you are so weak. You sent a portion of your immortal goo away. You are truly unrepentant. Even you could not succeed. What can the rest of Shadow Sect do? Purple Mountain True Monarch's face was purple. He could not breathe. He could not speak, that he could only think to himself. This person is different. Oh, Fang Yuan. You are definitely different. You are a complete otherworldly demon, the best person to resist fate. You are the greatest pawn chosen by Heaven's will to deal with Shadow's sect. But now, you have already escaped the manipulation of Heaven's will. I assimilated with Heaven's will to spread hope in this world and influence fate. Unfortunately, I failed. Like what Duke Long said, I had unknowingly become the pawn of Heaven's will. In the process of assimilating with Heaven's will also assimilated me. I have no hope left, but Fang Yuan, you carry the biggest hope. Let me exert my final influence at the last moment of my life. I am really curious, after gaining the entirety of Shadow Sect, how far can you go? Go ahead and wreak havoc in this world, Fang Yuan. All of his internal thoughts were transmitted to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan sighed deeply. A person near death, he held no more suspicions. I understand you, even though we were enemies. I will accept this and become the leader of Shadow Sect. Very good, very good. Purple Mountain True Monarch closed his eyes weakly that he grabbed onto Duke Long's hands in the end. Even though his movement was stiff, he did not let go. He did not go down without a fight. At this moment, Purple Mountain True Monarch truly died from combat. His messy purple hair was no longer shiny. After 100,000 years, his journey had come to an end. This person who had fought endlessly in his life, he had finally rested. Even though he failed and lost his life, at the final moment of his life, he still continued to spread hope. He died with great expectations. Perhaps this was the reason why he was still carrying a smile upon death. This was truly 100,000 years of living in this world, being in a state of half clarity and half insanity, staring at heaven without bowing down. Before his death, he gifts the source of chaos 1. Chapter 1373. Acknowledging Fang Yuan as the leader. Purple Mountain True Monarch had no more life force. He was now a corpse. What a clean death. Duke Long snorted. His cold dragon eyes could see both the inside and outside of Purple Mountain True Monarch. Purple Mountain True Monarch had many immortal goo originally, but he had sent most of them away, while the rest had died along with him. Not just that, his soul was dissipating quickly. Duke Long wanted to stop him, but he could not. The more surprising thing was that Purple Mountain True Monarch's corpse had many Dao marks originally, but now, they were all dissipating that he truly left no resources to Heavenly Court. Duke Long let go with his hand, as the Purple Mountain True Monarch corpse with zero value fell to the ground. Soul beasts roared and surrounded Duke Long, but because of his great power, none of the soul beasts dared to attack him. The soul beasts were far bigger than Duke Long's body, but he could actually move confidently and slowly, unhindered. As expected of the door of life and death, there are a great number of soul beasts here. Even if I kill some, more will appear. They are endless. Duke Long sighed softly. The door of life and death was a secluded domain of heaven and earth. It had existed since the creation of the world Sup 1/Sup. Thinking about it, throughout history, the souls of all living beings that died would reside here. Only after Red Lotus Demon Venerable damaged fate did souls gain the ability to remain in the outside world. Thus, deep inside the door of life and death, only Spectral Soul Demon Venerable would know how many soul beasts or souls there truly were. Duke Long did not pay attention to these soul beasts. Even immemorial soul beasts were just small issues to Duke Long unless it were a legendary immemorial desolate beast like Zui Yi Hui or Mao Li Qiu. Then he would have to deal with them seriously. Spectral Soul has been captured and most of the split souls are dead. It is time to go outside and sweep the battlefield. Duke Long had the immortal killer move Dragon Gate. He could freely enter and exit blessed lands and grotto heavens. Even if Shadow Sect's blessed land closed its entrance, it could not trap him. But when he was about to move, the entire blessed land started shaking. Cracks were forming in the sky, like a shattering mirror. Duke Long frowned slightly. The entirety of Shadow Sect's blessed land is self-detonating? As expected of a demon. This way, Duke Long had no choice but to give up his earlier plan. He had to take out the door of life and death before the blessed land was destroyed. If the blessed land was destroyed, It would create the winds of assimilations. This important secluded domain of heaven and earth would not be safe. Grr. The soul beast army growled with fear in their vocalizations. This world was getting destroyed. These soul beasts felt that a calamity was coming. More and more soul beasts went into chaos. Duke Long went against the tide and slaughtered a bunch of soul beasts, ending up in front of the door of life and death at the same time, outside Shadow Sect's blessed land. We cannot take it anymore. Several pure dream reality seeker physique bodies flew out of dream realms one by one. They were not complete extreme physique bodies. They had flaws. Even though they had dream path down marks, they could not stay inside dream realms indefinitely. Once time was up, they would have to come out. But when the righteous path goo immortals in southern border wanted to kill them, the super goo formation activated and the pure dream reality seeker physique bodies were teleported away. These pure dream reality seeker physique bodies were created using the cocoons of light by Purple Mountain True Monarch, who expended his own soul in terms of identity. They were considered Shadow Sect split souls. They were the lingering split souls of Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. However, their battle strength was unreliable. Purple Mountain True Monarch had only given them some mortal goo before dying, and their thoughts and foundation were vastly different from Purple Mountain True Monarch. They were like new entities. Greetings to Shadow Sect's new leader. After seeing Feng Yuan, they paid respects to him. Before Purple Mountain True Monarch died, he had arranged everything. Hey Lu Lan, by Ning Bing, Ing Wu Xie, Fairy Miao Yin, Black Tigress, they all came out of the immortal apertures of the pure dream reality seeker physique bodies. Facing Feng Yuan, these people had interesting expressions. Miao Yin pays respects to Lord's sect leader. Fairy Miao Yin spoke first. She and Xiao Si Lu were among the three great fairies in southern border. Her voice was alluring. Her clothes were a beautiful pink. Her body was alluring, and her eyes were deep set. Her nose was tall, and her eyes were seductive. Lord's sect leader. Black Tigress followed. Her expression was stiff. Not long ago, she had fought and wanted to kill Feng Yuan. But now, fate worked in mysterious ways. Feng Yuan became her leader in such a short time. He Lu Lan gritted her teeth, sighing deeply. He Lu Lan pays respects to Lord's sect leader. She had worked together with Feng Yuan, became enemies with him, and was even saved by him before. She also used her aunt, Blazing Heaven Demoness, to trap Feng Yuan. But later, during the Battle of Etian Mountain, because of a change of events, she had to join Shadow Sect and undergo a tough alliance agreement. Precisely so, after Feng Yuan took over Shadow Sect, he could decide her life and death. He Lu Lan had to lower her head. To think that the day would come when we worked together again. Bai Ning Bing stood alone. She crossed her arms as her dragon eyes shined with cold light. She sighed as she looked at Feng Yuan. Her relationship with Feng Yuan went even further back. From Qingmao Mountain, they had traveled together. And now, both of them had their respective fortuitous encounters. They met again and became allies once more. It was truly interesting. As for Ing Wu Xie, he was still in a dream realm. Feng Yuan looked at these goo immortals. His gaze swept past the pure dream reality seeker physique bodies. They had short lifespan. They would detonate when time was up. The higher their cultivation level, the shorter their lives. Thus, these pure dream reality seeker physique bodies were cannon fodder. Among the members of Shadow Sect, the only ones important to Feng Yuan were Ing Wu Xie, He Lu Lan, Bai Ning Bing, Fairy Miao Yin, and Black Tigress. There was also Sixth Hair, the spy of Shadow Sect inside Langya Blessed Land. He counted as the sixth person. Among these six, He Lu Lan was the most trustworthy one to Feng Yuan, because she could not betray him. Fairy Miao Yin and Lady Black Tigress were members of Shadow Sect due to Purple Mountain True Monarch's true inheritances. After inheriting everything from Purple Mountain True Monarch, Feng Yuan had a good grasp over these two. Ing Wu Xie and Sixth Hair were split souls of Spectral Soul. Since Feng Yuan became the new leader of Shadow Sect, they had to acknowledge him. As for whether they would follow his orders and act with enthusiasm, that would depend on Feng Yuan's leadership skill. Bai Ning Bing was the hardest to control. She had set an alliance agreement with Shadow Sect. They had equal status. Even when Purple Mountain True Monarch was still around, Bai Ning Bing did not show them much respect. not to mention Fang Yuan, who had just become the leader of Shadow Sect that I in this instant. All sorts of thoughts flashed through Fang Yuan's mind. Next, he said, "Hey Lulan, look after the Super Gu formation for me. I need to wake Ing Wu Xiao up." He was controlling the Super Gu formation to resist Fairy Z Wei. It was very hard for him to split his concentration on any complex killer moves. The reason why he chose He Lulan was because she was the most trustworthy among the 5. Immortal killer move. Unravel Dream. Fang Yuan succeeded in saving Ing Wu Xia, allowing him to escape the dream realm. However, even though Ing Wu Xia was awake, his condition was not normal. He was listless. He had no fighting spirit at all. He was lying down on the ground like his back was removed. He had been completely broken. Spectral soul was captured. Purple Mountain True Monarch died. Ing Wu Xia's hopes and dreams were shattered. He felt like there was no future left. It was bleak, and there was absolutely no hope. Since his life began, the goal of saving his main body had always motivated him and driven him forward. But now that this goal was crushed, Ing Wu Xia lost all his drive. Even though they were all split souls, he is still too young. He has not lived as long as Purple Mountain True Monarch. Since the Battle of Etian Mountain, how long has passed? Fang Yuan realized as he urged. Were the inheritances that Purple Mountain True Monarch left in your immortal aperture? Pass them to me. Even though Ing Wu Xia was dejected, he still acknowledged Fang Yuan's identity and opened his immortal aperture's entrance, letting out a purple will. The will was surrounded by rank 8 immortal essence, as well as immortal goo, floating in the air. Purple Mountain True Monarch? Fang Yuan took a step back, feeling vigilant. Even though Purple Mountain True Monarch only had a will left, his immortal essence and goo worms were a threat to him. The purple will slowly formed into Purple Mountain True Monarch's appearance as he passed all of his immortal essence and goo worms to Fang Yuan. Like what he had promised earlier, immediately, Fang Yuan refined all of the immortal goo. Fang Yuan finally let out a sigh of relief. Earlier, even though he communicated with Purple Mountain True Monarch, that was all he could do. He could not let Purple Mountain True Monarch send all of his inheritances into Fang Yuan's immortal aperture. Purple Mountain True Monarch had to pass these inheritances to Ing Wu Xia before Fang Yuan could take them. Of course, Purple Mountain True Monarch did not request anything from Fang Yuan, but his intention was clear. Purple Mountain True Monarch wanted Fang Yuan to save these people. Of course, if Fang Yuan refused, he would not be in danger. 2. Think that my gains this time will be this huge. After getting the inheritances, Fang Yuan sighed. In his original plan, he wanted to exterminate Shadow Sect and get rid of Shadow Sect's remnant forces. If he was lucky and went one step further, he would be able to capture Spectral Soul's remnant soul. Of course, he did not bear much hope in that aspect. He knew how hard it was to capture souls. And even if he succeeded, the soul search would be extremely difficult. Chapter 1374, Flying Away. Spectral Soul was, after all, the founder of Soul Path, a rank 9 venerable, one of the 10 cultivators at the apex in the long span of history. It would be a joke if his soul could be easily searched. Thieving Heaven Demon, venerable cultivated space path, and created divine concealment and ghostly concealment, which were in a permanently active state and did not use any immortal essence. Although Spectral Soul's main body did not have immortal essence and goo worms, he absolutely was not to be underestimated. When Purple Mountain True Monarch handed all his inheritances to Fang Yuan, making Fang Yuan the leader of Shadow Sect, Fang Yuan's gains naturally greatly surpassed his previous expectations. Purple Mountain True Monarch wants me to save these people, even though he did not express this verbally. He was afraid I would be suspicious and not agree to accept his gift. He really put in a lot of effort for this. But if I can make good use of these people, they will indeed be a great help to me. They already have no other options. They are my natural allies. I'll bring you all with me then. Fang Yuan had never been a narrow-minded person. Even when he had just transmigrated to this world, he had been like this. His experiences in his previous life and this life made it such that he was much more open-minded than normal people. Bai Ning Bing, He Lulan, and Black Tigress had all betrayed him. But so what? Fang Yuan completely understood their actions. All these thoughts flashed in his mind for only a moment. Feng Yuan stored purple mountain true monarch's will into his sovereign immortal aperture as well. Without immortal essence and immortal goo, the threat level of this will of purple mountain true monarch was close to 0. In the future. Unless he had no choice, Feng Yuan would absolutely not give immortal essence and immortal goo for this purple will to use. The situation was pressing. Feng Yuan did not have time to inspect his gains, immediately communicating with the purple will in his immortal aperture. The question he asked was naturally about the method of controlling the upper extreme heavenly eagle that purple mountain true monarch had mentioned before. It was very risky for Feng Yuan to use reverse flow protection seal right now. As such, the upper extreme heavenly eagle naturally became his first choice. The advantages of the upper extreme heavenly eagle in place of reverse flow protection seal was that it was faster and could penetrate space. Moreover, it was an immemorial desolate beast and had an extremely tough body. Naturally, the precondition was for Feng Yuan to be able to control it. Although Feng Yuan had reputation restriction immortal goo, it was not his, and he had only borrowed it from Wu clan. Secondly, this immortal goo was rank 7 and would probably not have enough strength to control the rank 8 upper extreme heavenly eagle. Feng Yuan soon learned of Purple Mountain True Monarch's method, and surprisingly, he actually also knew of this method. This was an enslavement path method and had a relation to a person. This person's name was somewhat strange. He was called 180 Slaves. He was an Eastern Sea Goo immortal who had a rough childhood. He was born as a slave. He used every opportunity he got and took risks to continuously grow, finally climbing to the peak of his life. He was an absolute genius of enslavement path in his generation. Normal enslavement path methods were to use a higher status to rule over lower status. But he did the opposite, using beasts of lower status to rule over those of a higher status. Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance had grasped 180 slaves' inheritance and put a portion of its contents on sale to Zombie Alliance's members. Shark Demon had once purchased a portion of 180 slaves' true inheritance content. He wanted to use groups of sharks to gain control over that one-finger flow shark. Unfortunately, he was routed by Blazing Heaven Demonis, and with Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's headquarters being schemed by Shadow Sect. Not only him, even his wife Subai Man was turned into goo materials to refine sovereign immortal fetus goo. Shadow Sect's foundation was extremely deep. Purple Mountain True Monarch was a first-generation split soul. He definitely did not have just one method to enslave the immemorial desolate beast upper extreme heavenly eagle. But what Purple Mountain True Monarch could offer right now was only this method of 180 slaves. To speak of it, it was actually quite fortunate. Purple Mountain True Monarch was in possession of many immortal goo, but earlier on, he had set up the Purple Blood River Formation. And in his 100,000 years of life, he had been spreading true inheritances everywhere. It was not easy for his current variety of goo worms to use a method of enslaving the upper extreme heavenly eagle. This immortal killer move is called 180 Slaves. He used his own name for it. It seems that 180 Slaves regarded it as his main trump card and his proudest method. This killer move is not difficult, and I have all the required immortal goo as well. Its mortal goo are common and can be bought from Treasure Yellow Heaven. It seems Shadow Sect had already modified 180 slaves. What I lack now are eagle-type desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. Feng Yuan's thoughts moved rapidly. The upper extreme heavenly eagle continued to mature while large amounts of heavenly crystals were expended. Feng Yuan began to wantonly buy eagle-type desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts from Treasure Yellow Heaven. Transactions of live desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts had always had a huge market in Treasure Yellow Heaven, but eagles were somewhat rare among these. Time was pressing. Feng Yuan did not have much choice. He hesitated slightly before making a decision that he recklessly proclaimed in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Purchasing eagle-type desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts at a high price, we can trade with immortal goo as well. In an instant, this caused an uproar. Using immortal goo to purchase desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. Immortal goo were unique and extremely difficult to refine, while desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts were easy to raise and cultivate. He was clearly trading at a loss. However, Feng Yuan had to disregard it. Soon, he attracted the attention of many goo immortals. I have both desolate beast and ancient desolate beast mixed heavenly eagles. What immortal goo are you selling? The first goo immortal asked. The mixed heavenly eagle was not a normal eagle. It had an eagle head and a human body, a pair of hands with 5 human fingers and sharp nails. Its feet were that of an eagle, and it had eagle wings. It liked to use a long bone as a staff to fight. This mixed heavenly eagle might have a peculiar appearance, but it is indeed an eagle. I can use it. Fang Yuan thought, before inquiring, how many do you have? I have 33 desolate beast mixed heavenly eagles and 7 ancient mixed heavenly eagles. That goo immortal responded. Fang Yuan nodded and said without hesitation, I will buy them. I have a rank 6 immortal goo here. Only a rank 6 immortal goo? These are 7 ancient desolate beasts. The goo immortal said in a dissatisfied tone. Fang Yuan was even more dissatisfied, directly shouting, Get lost if you are not selling. That goo immortal's attitude immediately changed. Oh, don't get so angry. I will sell them. How could I not sell? The moment this transaction was completed, it immediately created even more uproar in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Treasure Yellow Heaven's transactions were open. Everyone had personally seen both sides transacting. He actually used an immortal goo to buy the desolate beasts. This is an unprecedented event. There is something wrong with this goo immortal's brain. Although there are a lot of mixed heavenly eagles, how many immortal materials could they be turned into? Using equivalent immortal materials, they would only be barely enough for 10 attempts in refining that rank 6 immortal goo he used. Refining immortal goo was truly too difficult with extremely low success rate. 10 times looked like a lot, but in truth, there were many goo immortals who had to attempt 50 or 60 times to refine immortal goo. It is not a fraud, right? Does this immortal goo has hidden problems? A goo immortal was doubtful. No chance. This is Treasure Yellow Heaven. Who can deceive it? The treasure light it emitted was genuine. My turn. I have rainbow chasing eagles. Over 100 of them. Someone came to transact. Rainbow chasing eagles were rather small and were all desolate beasts. There had never been an ancient desolate beast level rainbow chasing eagle. This eagle did not have strong battle strength. Wild rainbow chasing eagles like to chase after rainbows. There was little to comment on their other aspects, but in terms of speed, they were outstanding. All right, this rank 6 immortal goo is yours. Fang Yuan directly was ready to buy it. The seller asked awkwardly, Can we change it to another immortal goo? I had to raise these rainbow chasing eagles for over 100 years before they could grow to this scale. Fang Yuan's stance was firm. Get lost. Trade if you want, or screw off somewhere. Don't. Are you trading or not? Trading. Fang Yuan's divine sense snorted. If I were not in urgent need of eagles, would you people be able to get such benefits? Hurry up. Here, take your immortal goo. My time is precious. Thereupon, the following goo immortals all started addressing Fang Yuan as senior. The scene was getting crowded. Even the goo immortals who did not have eagle-type desolate beasts gathered to watch this show. To see this eccentric character who was using immortal goo to buy desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. Treasure Yellow Heaven's commotion naturally attracted the attention of many forces in the 5 regions. Among them was naturally Heavenly Court, as well as Longevity Heaven and so on. However, they were unable to stop Fang Yuan. Treasure Yellow Heaven had always maintained neutrality. No one could find its location and no one was able to exert influence on it.in just a short while. Fang Yuan had gathered enough eagle-type desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts. For this, Fang Yuan paid for immortal goo, 3 rank 6 and 1 rank 7.in return. The number of eagles he obtained was shocking, reaching over 400. Most of them were desolate beasts while 20% were ancient desolate beasts at the same time. He had also gathered enough of the necessary mortal goo. Fang Yuan began to try activating the immortal killer move 180 slaves. He was careful because this was the first time he was using this move. His speed was slow, even though he could not afford to waste a single second in this current situation. Goo worms after goo worms were activated. Fang Yuan's progress was quite steady. Guh. Suddenly, his body shook as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. The activation had failed, and the backlash caused him injuries. Large amounts of mortal goo were destroyed, and his mental energy was also expended by a lot. Man, as before. Instantly, Fang Yuan recovered. He had no expression on his face as he continued to activate the killer move 180 slaves. Failure. Another failure. After repeatedly failing for 3 times, by the 4th time, Fang Yuan resisted an intense headache. Finally activating the killer move. A bunch of strange lights covered the upper extreme heavenly eagle. The upper extreme heavenly eagle raised its head and gave a clear and resonant cry, submitting itself to the rule of Fang Yuan. Success. Fang Yuan had no time to be happy as he heard He Lu Lan's voice. Quick! I am about to lose control over the goo formation. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth, immediately letting out the upper extreme heavenly eagle. You will not escape. Fairy Ziwei's slightly dismayed voice resounded. Fang Yuan had, under her nose, become the new leader of Shadow Sect, and was still trying to escape. He was truly disregarding Fairy Ziwei. But right at this time, Fang Yuan let out Purple Mountain True Monarch's Will, along with immortal essence and a few immortal goo. Fang Yuan, remember what I told you. Leave quickly. The Purple Will said this and activated a killer move, pouncing at the super goo formation and colliding into it the next moment. The upper extreme heavenly eagle carried Fang Yuan and the rest, piercing into space, appearing outside the goo formation. With one flap of its wings, it immediately soared to the sky. With another flap, it had already become a tiny dark in the horizon, flying out of everyone's vision. Chapter 1375, Battle Ceases. Another immemorial desolate beast. Someone left the battlefield. It looks like it was from the super goo formation's direction. What had actually happened? The upper extreme heavenly eagle carried Fang Yuan, Xie, and the rest, quickly leaving the battlefield, stupefying all the southern border righteous path goo immortals present on the scene. In fact, when Xie and the others were transported by the super goo formation, many among them had felt something wrong. Almost all those goo immortals on the eagle's back are the demonic path scoundrels who attacked us. What exactly is Wu Yihai playing at? Quick, let us in. The southern border goo immortals began to protest. However, there was not even a trace of Fang Yuan left in the super goo formation. He had already changed his appearance and fled right under everyone's noses. Qi Gui, something seems to be off. At this moment, in the battlefield, an expert among Southern Border's righteous path goo immortals, Old Treeman, went up to Qi Gui's side. It did not matter if the other clan's goo immortals failed to contact Wu Yihai. The main thing was Wu clan and Xiao clan, especially Fairy Si Lu failing to get a response from Wu Yihai. There was definitely a problem. Wu Yihai had control over the whole super goo formation. If he made a mistake, it would definitely be a big and fatal one. Qi Gui nodded. Solemnly, he also knew the severity of this matter. This super goo formation was, after all, personally arranged by Qi clan's first supreme elder, Qi Chuyu. Although Qi Gui was not able to control the goo formation, he still could inspect the state of the goo formation. It was just that this would use up his energy and time, and it was rather troublesome. This inspection immediately turned Qi Gui's expression ashen. Beta had been observing Qi Gui, and seeing the latter's expression change to that of shock and terror, his heart jolted, and he quickly transmitted his voice. What happened? Lord Wu Yihai is missing. The whole super goo formation is forcibly controlled by 2 forces, and they are fighting against each other. One has a central continent aura, and the other has a northern plains aura. Just based on their auras, they are both rank 8 goo immortals. Qi Gui said with distress. That Bieda was immediately dazed. The impact was too heavy. He took a few deep breaths, as sweat started to appear on his forehead. Too dangerous. This situation was too dangerous. Wu Yihai has mysteriously gone missing. He is very likely to have been killed. Regardless of how the 2 rank 8s infiltrated the super goo formation, Wu Yihai has no chance with his rank 7 cultivation. Bada started to make deductions. Right now, he could not even imagine Fang Yuan was a traitor. This was also the result of Fang Yuan paying attention to small details like changing his appearance before leaving. More importantly, they could not even imagine that Wu Yihai, Fang Yuan, would mix in with Shadow Sect. Why? Because not long ago, Ba Quan Feng, this mole in the southern border righteous path forces, had caused the super goo formation to be unable to activate. At the crucial moment, Feng Yuan had saved the day, and with his help, Southern Border's righteous forces were able to bring up the second layer of the super goo formation. This matter had left a very deep impression on the Southern Border righteous path goo immortals. If such a person was Shadow Sect's mole, how could he hinder Shadow Sect's plan at the crucial moment? It probably bodes ill for Wu Yihai. Oh, now that I think of it, I am lucky I was plotted against by Ba Quanfeng. If it were me controlling the super goo formation right now, Wu Yihai's ending would have been my ending. I should be grateful to Wu Yihai for replacing me. Qi Gui was inwardly thankful to Feng Yuan. Whether Wu Yihai was dead or not, Bada soon accepted it Bieta had already found Wu Yihai an eyesore. Even if Wu Yihai had a miserable end, he would still look at it like a joke. But now, Bada could not laugh. The super goo formation is already out of our control. Shadow Sect has retreated, but Heavenly Court is still here. What is their stance? Bada pondered over this serious issue. Previously, Heavenly Court and Southern Border's righteous path had stood together to fight Shadow Sect. Now Shadow Sect had left, while Spectral Soul's main body was captured by Duke Long. What stance would Heavenly Court have? Bada did not have any answer to this question, because, not long ago, Heavenly Court had organized a secret group to invade Northern Plains and destroy snowy mountain-blessed land. But they had to retreat in defeat because of Longevity Heaven. The current situation was extremely similar. Heavenly Court had organized another expedition group to Southern Border. It was not easy to say what their stance was. Although both belonged to the righteous path, Bada, who had held a high position in the righteous path for a long time, knew something. Politics never placed significance on moral integrity. It was all about benefits. How could they protect their benefits? One word: strength. If the super goo formation was still in their control, Southern Border's righteous forces would still have some confidence to negotiate with Heavenly Court. But Wu Yihai was gone. Now, and the super goo formation was seized by others. It seemed to be two rank 8 goo immortals who had seized control, and neither of them were from Southern Border it this time. In this situation, the more Bada thought, the more unsightly his expression became. But he did not waste too much time thinking. In just a short while, he opened his dried lips and made a difficult decision. Retreat. Retreat? We are giving up the super goo formation? Our clan's immortal goo are all here. Qi Gui then pointed at those patches of dream realms. Look at these dream realms. Heavenly Court might have a way to collect them. If we retreat, all the immortal goo and the dream realms will be lost. Who will bear the responsibility for that? Bada coldly glanced at Qi Gui. Retreat if you want to retreat. If you want to remain, then remain. Leaving behind this sentence, he recalled the last remaining Ba clan goo immortal and left. Bada's decision immediately created a commotion among the Southern Border righteous path goo immortals. Before Bada left, he had informed all of them regarding their current situation. That Wu clan and Xiao clan naturally suffered a huge blow when they heard about Wu Yihai being missing. The super goo formation was no longer in their control. Most of the Southern Border goo immortals imitated Bada and started to retreat. Wu Liao, however, did not leave. Wu Yihai was Wu Yong's brother. He was now missing, his whereabouts unknown. As a Wu clan goo immortal, how could Wu Liao easily retreat? I believe Lord Wu Yihai is alive and well. Xiao Si Lu thought for a bit. Before leaving with Xiao clan's goo immortals, most of the Southern Border goo immortals left, leaving behind Qi Gui, Wu Liao, and a few other goo immortals. They chose to believe in Heavenly Court. After all, it led Central Continent's righteous path. Heaven Overseeing Tower was still tangled up with Zui Yihui. Neither were able to get the upper hand. Zui Yihui held deep hatred towards the Heavenly Court goo immortals. It was not just a desire to hunt for food. This point had clearly been calculated by Purple Mountain True Monarch. Among Southern Border's righteous path goo immortals, those that wanted to leave had left. A mere will dares to obstruct me. In a short while, Fairy Ziwei was covered in the power of Star Constellation chessboard, finally completely destroying Purple Mountain True Monarch's will. This rank 8 Wisdom Path expert finally completed her goal, grasping control over this super goo formation. However, she was not in the least bit happy. Feng Yuan had become the leader of Shadow Sect and escaped right under her nose. Fairy Ziwei was well aware of the upper extreme Heavenly Eagle's speed. she definitely would not be able to catch up to it if she were to give chase now. Fairy Ziwei's mood was extremely bad. After gaining control over the Super Gu formation, she immediately contacted Duke Long. Lord Duke Long, how is the situation there? All she heard was a loud sound. Space cracked open like a mirror, and from within the tear, a rank 8 Gu immortal flew out. Who else could it be but Duke Long? It was just that, if originally he had an aloof and domineering aura, now, his face was filled with a dark and ferocious grimace, seemingly enduring something. Fairy Ziwei's heart jolted, immediately activating the Super Gu formation to bring Duke Long in. Lord Duke Long, what's wrong? Duke Long said with clenched teeth. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable is indeed Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. I had just moved the door of life and death into my phantom aperture, when that remnant soul of Spectral Soul actually used the door of life and death's power to try to devour my soul. We need to return to Heavenly Court quickly, and use the power of Heavenly Court to separate Spectral Soul's remnant soul from my body and suppress it. Fairy Ziwei's heart sank. She had not expected the situation to be this serious. Spectral Soul Demon Venerable had been a grand rank 9 when alive. Even though he was schemed against by Heaven's will and taken captive by Heavenly Court, the moment he was given the slightest chance, the retaliation he unleashed was actually so ferocious. Yes. Fairy Ziwei quickly responded. She naturally would carry out Duke Long's order without doubt. But how should we handle Zui Yihui, along with these southern border Gu immortals and Fang Yuan, who has already escaped? Fairy Ziwei thought for a bit and asked. Duke Long said with no hesitation, don't worry about Zui Yihui. It cannot catch up to Heaven Overseeing Tower. Forget about these southern border righteous forces. Spectral Soul's main body is already within me. From start to finish, we have not fallen out with southern border. Both of us belong to righteous path. Massacring righteous forces is not beneficial to Central Continent's future grand unification of other regions. As for Fang Yuan, as he said this, Duke Long paused and looked at Fairy ZW. An ashamed look flashed past Fairy Ziwei's face. I did not handle it properly. However, Duke Long smiled instead. I don't believe you didn't use any method. Fairy Ziwei answered. Lord Duke Long is wise. That thief Fang Yuan has already been struck by my investigative method, as well as the rest of Shadow Sect's members. Good. Southern Border's righteous path reinforcements are coming from all directions. We need to retreat. Duke Long nodded. Finally, the reinforcements of Southern Border's super clan successively arrived at the remains of Etion Mountain. What they saw was a ruined battlefield. Dream realms were everywhere, piled up messily. They were no longer round like before, but were like a range of mountains, scattered here and there. The Super Gu formation had already disappeared without a trace. Since Fairy Ziwei had already gained control of the Super Gu formation, she naturally could break it down. Many of the immortal Gu of Southern Border's righteous forces were taken away by Heavenly Court. Duke Long and Fairy Ziwei then entered Heaven Overseeing Tower and flew to White Heaven. Zui Yihui did not intend to let them off. Charging into White Heaven, more and more Southern Border Gu immortals gathered here. The scale was so large that it was rarely seen, even once in 100 years. Wu Yong, Chi Chuyu and the others looked at the battlefield with ashen expressions. They had suffered tremendous losses this time.